Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a themed reading vlog. In this reading vlog, 1-star reviews are going to determine what I read for a week. This is a vlog idea that I've been thinking about for a little while because several months ago there was a trend on Bookstagram where people would post 1-star reviews for books and have their followers vote for which book they should read solely based on the 1-star review, not knowing the title, the genre, or anything like that. I thought it would be a fun thing to try for a video, and then Kayla from Books and Lala ended up doing a similar thing, and I kind of was nervous to make the video now because I was like, good God, people are gonna think that I copied her. But I still thought this would be fun and I wanted to do it anyway. Also, I don't think she had her subscribers vote in her video. I think she just picked based on the reviews, but maybe I'm remembering wrong. I'm hoping to read 2 books this week. I think that's something that I can manage. And I decided that I would pick 1-star reviews of books on my Read It or Delete It TBR challenge list. I will link that video in the card. Basically, that was a video I made talking about books that have been on my TBR for a long time. And so I challenged myself saying, if I don't read them in 2024, I'm going to delete them from my TBR. First, I was feeling like a thriller, so I posted a poll with 2 1-star reviews of thrillers from my Read It or Delete It list, and we're gonna see what you all voted for. Book number 1 was I Know Who You Are by Alice Feeney. This is a backlist title from Alice Feeney, and I know she's a very popular thriller author, but this book is not highly rated, and I've heard a lot of bad things about it. The 1-star review that I picked for this one says, "This is really bad. I love Alice Feeney, so I'm just going to pretend she didn't write this one and move on. I am convinced it couldn't have been her who wrote this. 1 out of 5 stars. Maybe she was going through a rough patch." That was funny to me. I have had this book on my TBR for quite some time because I really liked Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney, but I'm apprehensive about this book due to its very low rating, and I personally hated Daisy Darker. Really disliked it. Then book number 2 is Lies She Told by Kate Holohan. Ironically, I believe I added this to my TBR because I saw it in one of Books and Lala's videos. But this is another thriller that has been on my TBR for years and years, and the 1-star review for this one, which I personally thought was really funny. "You know how you feel after you eat half a bag of mini Kit Kat bars, or at least 1 serving of every sweet at a potluck dinner. Like you're a bit dirty somehow and need to eat a carrot and do at least an hour on the exercise bike. This book left me feeling like that, only without any of the pleasure that the Kit Kats or desserts would give me." I thought that was funny, but you shouldn't feel dirty for eating sweets, all right? You're allowed, okay? Reviewer, allow yourself to eat Kit Kats. Maybe not half the bag, but everything in moderation. This poll ended up being really close. There was a time yesterday where I think for at least a few hours, it was tied 50-50, and I was going crazy being like, what am I gonna do if the poll is a tie? That's gonna ruin everything. But it did end up that Lies She Told won. So that's the book that I'm going to be reading first in this vlog. This is a mystery thriller about an author named Eliza who I believe she writes mystery thrillers, so it's a little bit meta there. And after her husband is suspected of a murder, it seems that her current book is mirroring her own life. So this is going to be the first book that I read in this vlog. I have checked it out on my Libby app, and I will update you once I have some thoughts to share. I'm also going to be reading a second book later in this week. The poll is up, but I'm going to let it run for a little bit longer before deciding which book I'm going to read. Alright, I just started reading Lies She Told yesterday, and I've already read 50% of the Libby ebook. I started reading it when I was taking a bath, and then I read some more before bed. So I will say this book definitely does have a very accessible thriller writing style. I mean, you can see I am just flying through it. So we're have chapters from the perspective of Liza, the main character, and then we also get to see the chapters in the book that she is writing. The main character in her book is named Beth, which is slightly confusing because Liza and Beth, they're both nicknames for Elizabeth. But Liza is married. She is trying and struggling to get pregnant, but recently her marriage to her husband has been strained. Her husband has been ignoring her, treating her a lot more coldly because he is seemingly obsessed with finding out what happened to his business partner, Nick, who disappeared, and Liza presumes that he is dead. Liza is writing this book about Beth, who is the heroine in a romantic suspense novel, and she finds out that her husband is cheating on her and wants to get revenge. And as the book goes on, we see that Liza also starts to question her husband and wonder, is he potentially being unfaithful? Is art imitating life here? With this lingering mystery of what happened to Nick in the background. Based on what we read so far, I feel like there is something they are very obviously hinting at regarding Nick that hasn't been explicitly confirmed, but I feel like is very obvious at this point. I don't know what happened to Nick exactly, but I have some thoughts about where this is going. I don't know if they're right or not, but I am getting through this book very quickly, so I will talk to you again once I am finished and I have some more concrete thoughts to share about how the mystery plays out. It is so hot that my glasses fogged up just walking out into the garage. But I'm going to go in a minute to the library to pick up my second book for this vlog because I did end up finishing Lies She Told. I think I'm gonna give this a 3. It was definitely an easy read, easy to get through. So if you're looking for a quick suspense thriller, I think it is good for that. But I did find the ending very underwhelming because it went pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to go. I felt like some of the foreshadowing was a little bit heavy-handed because the secret of Nick's that I alluded to earlier, yeah, that was his secret, and I saw it coming a mile away. And I also just think, you know, I know how books like this work, so I could kind of tell the direction that it was going, so it didn't have that surprise factor that you obviously hope for in a thriller. But I also don't think it was bad. I think it was decent, and I think definitely it was an easy read for me to get through. So I'm still giving it a 3. Not bad, but also not the most memorable at the same time. So now I'm going to head to the library and return my books from June and pick up the second book for this vlog. I'll tell you what that is later. Hello, I am back and here to tell you what I will be reading based on that last poll. So I was thinking I was in the mood for historical fiction, and I picked 2 historical fiction books that are also on my Read It or Delete It TBR challenge for this year. Spoiler alert, book 2 ended up winning because obviously I have one physical book here and one that I don't physically have, so that kind of gives it away, doesn't it? But book 1 was the Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner. I added this to my TBR just because Jane Austen is my favorite author, so seeing a historical fiction book that had something to do with Jane Austen just piqued my interest, but it's been on my TBR for a long time and I haven't read it yet. I also haven't really heard a lot of reviews for this book, so it's not something that I'm super hype to read. But the 1-star review that I picked for this said something along the lines of fan fiction meets As the World Turns 1940s style. I think a lot of people didn't vote for this just because the review makes it sound so bad. But to be honest, I was having a hard time finding a review for this book that was funny, because there were a decent amount of 1-star reviews that were just complaining about this book because it, 1, had curse words in it, 2, had sex scenes in it, 3, had gay people in it. And basically all these people who were like, I don't like cursing, or I don't like sex scenes, or I don't like, them forcing their woke agenda, and just, clutching their imaginary pearls. Which obviously those types of reviews are not as fun. And obviously I understand that some people, maybe don't curse or don't really like sex scenes. I mean, I don't really like reading sex scenes either, but I'm also not going to be upset if a book has those things, because, there's nothing wrong with sex. There's nothing wrong with cursing, really. And there's definitely nothing wrong with being queer. So I didn't really want to use a review of some, conservative pearl clutcher, Anyways, this is a 1940s book about a group of women living in Chawton, which is the village that Jane Austen lived in towards the end of her life. And I believe they create a society to sort of keep Jane Austen's name and legacy alive. But that's not the book that I'm going to end up reading for this vlog. The book that won the poll is The Clockmaker's Daughter by Kate Morton. I have had this on my TBR for years and years, and honestly, I don't remember what inspired me to add it in the first place. I guess I saw some booktuber review it positively, and that inspired me to add it to my TBR, but it's been so long I honestly don't remember. The 1-star review for this book was, maybe her editor fell asleep while reading this. I know I did. Honestly, don't remember why I added this. I don't remember the plot, but when I was going through my TBR, I saw that this book has elements of mystery in it, and that intrigued me because, I am a mystery-loving girly, and I love a historical mystery. That's the genre that I want to write in. Since I don't remember the plot, I will just look at the back. In the summer of 1862, a group of young artists, led by the passionate and talented Edward Radcliffe, descends upon Birchwood Manor on the banks of the Upper Thames. Their plan? To spend a secluded summer month in a haze of inspiration and creativity. But by the time their stay is over, one woman has been shot dead while another has disappeared. A priceless heirloom is missing, and Edward Radcliffe's life is in ruins. Over 150 years later, Elodie Winslow, a young archivist in London, uncovers a leather satchel containing 2 seemingly unrelated items: a sepia photograph of an arresting-looking woman in Victorian clothing, and an artist's sketchbook containing the drawing of a twin-gabled house on the bend of a river. Why does Birchwood Manor feel so familiar to Elodie, and who is the beautiful woman in the photograph? Will she ever give up her secrets? Told by multiple voices across time, The Clockmaker's Daughter is a story of murder, mystery, and thievery, of art, love, and loss, and flowing through its pages like a river is the voice of a woman who stands outside time, whose name has been forgotten by history, but who has watched it all unfold. Birdie Bell, The Clockmaker's Daughter. So this is a dual timeline historical fiction book with a bit of a mystery element. Ooh, now I am kind of nervous about this idea of a bunch of artists on a trip that ends in murder, because I just read The Villa by Rachel Hawkins, which did not work for me. So I hope this is not going to be the 1800s version of The Villa, but we'll see. I know Kate Morton is a very famous historical fiction author, and I've actually never read a book by her before, so I'm gonna give this a try. So to be completely transparent with you, so far I am not loving The Clockmaker's Daughter by Kate Morton. I think the way that this book is written is maybe not the writing style that I personally enjoy, because it's very clear that Kate Morton really has a lot of skill at writing descriptions. There are these descriptions that are really very vividly put, and just some sentences in the book that I think are beautifully, eloquently written. However, I do feel like it is a little bit too much description and internal monologuing for me, because it makes me at times feel like the book is a little slow and bogged down. I wish that she had cut back on it a little bit just for my personal preferences, because I would like the story to move a little bit faster. Granted, that is just my personal preference, and there is nothing wrong with the way that she wrote the book. It's just a preference issue. So if you do love a lot of description and a lot of characters thinking things over to themselves, you would definitely vibe with her writing style. It's just not really working for me. I feel like very little happened in the 80-something pages I've read so far. Elodie, who is the main character in the present day timeline, also does not really work for me. She is clearly a very passive person, and I understand that's probably intentional to be part of her character arc, but I just find her as a main character very frustrating, and it's making it hard for me to keep reading the book. For instance, we find out that she is engaged to this man named Alistair, but it doesn't seem like she genuinely loves Alistair or wants to marry him at all. She describes that when he proposed to her, she had an out-of-body experience, basically, and she said yes, not because she was excited to say yes and marry him, but because she felt like that's what people do when they're proposed to. And she thinks about, well, someday I'm going to be his wife and have kids with him, and I guess I'll be a good mom because just having kids and being a mom is the thing that people do. Absolutely no excitement about potentially going down this life path. She also really lets Alistair's mother make these major decisions for her. Like, the mother is basically planning this wedding, and Elodie lets her do whatever she wants. The future mother-in-law will call her a bunch of times, and she will just ignore all of her calls and messages, but never stick up for herself and say what she really wants. So she just clearly goes along with things that she doesn't want to do. And I think she knows that she doesn't want to do them, but she doesn't have the strength to stick up for herself and follow her own wants. That is so frustrating to me, because why are you marrying this man in 6 weeks, nonetheless, if you clearly don't actually want to? Why are you going along with this and causing what's going to be more hurt in the long run because you don't have a backbone? And I understand that's probably an intentional choice and that this story is going to see her learn to stick up for herself, but I'm not really inspired to keep reading because her lack of a backbone is so frustrating to me that it's off-putting. Again, these are just my personal preferences, and I understand that these are subjective opinions. This book definitely would work for other people. I'm just not sure right now if it's going to be the right book for me. Honestly, I'm thinking about DNFing it, but looking at the Goodreads reviews, I saw a lot of people say that they thought the beginning was slow and that the book picked up in the 30 to 50% range. So I'm gonna read a little bit more to see if I get more into the story. I also don't really want to DNF a book for this reading vlog, especially since I'm only reading 2 books. But at the same time, if it doesn't get better, I'm not going to force myself to read something that I don't think is really the right book for me. So we'll just see where things go. Hello, so I'm sorry, but I'm going to DNF this book. I read 32% of it, and it's just not working for me for the reasons that I stated earlier. I was reading it last night, and I kind of realized that even though I was reading this book, I really wanted to be doing something else. So I think that's just a sign it's not for me. I don't think this book is horrible. I just think it's not up to my personal taste, you know? I think the writing style doesn't really vibe with me, but it definitely is a personal preference thing. And if you like books that do have that very descriptive writing, I think you might enjoy this one. Another reason that I DNF'd this is because I quit at 32%. And at that part, we had just introduced another timeline and another perspective. And I just wasn't really up for that because I already felt like there wasn't a huge amount of plot going on. I'm sorry, that sounds mean. But I wasn't really invested in Elodie's story or Birdie's story. We didn't find out anything about Edward and why he came with all these people to the house, really. And so I was kind of like, oh, we're introducing this other character when I feel like we haven't really gotten that far with the others. So I think this book would be good for you if you like a lot of description, you like a slower pace, and you like lots and lots of characters. If you're okay with maybe, instead of having a lot of plot, just having time to be in the characters' heads, that's what I think this book is good for. So I'm sorry, I hate to DNF books in reading vlogs, but this is just personal preference. I don't think this is going to be the right book for me, and I will be taking it off my TBR. But hopefully my review was helpful at identifying if this is the right book for you. And I did still have fun making this video concept. It's been something I've been thinking about for months, so I am glad that I did it. I'm sorry about the DNF, but hopefully you still enjoyed this video anyway. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. It really does help my channel grow and reach more people. Let me know in the comment section, have you read either of these books? Do you remember any one-star book reviews that you just thought were particularly funny? And if you're still here and you want to show your support, but you're not sure what to comment, why don't you leave a clock emoji in the comment section? My social media links are in the description if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching this video today, you guys, and I hope you have a stellar rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you next time.